The British arrived in Australia in 1788 and decimated the Australian First Nation communities. The First Nation communities were discriminated against and separated from the beginning of the British invasion in 1788, requiring them to obey laws and policies against them without any consultation. Between 1910 to 1970, many indigenous children were forcibly removed from their families as a result of various government policies. The generations of children removed under these policies became known as the stolen generations.
Because it was a whole generation of kids that was taken from their homes. Basically, you either had to be black or white. You couldn't be brown or in the middle.
So they would consider you in the middle and you would have been
Taken.
Not kidding. Up until 1970s, by law, any Indigenous child who looked like he or she had any amount of white ancestry in them could be snatched from their families and forcibly assimilated into white society.
The forcible removal of indigenous children from their families was part of the policy of assimilation. Assimilation policies focused primarily on children who were considered more adaptable to white society than indigenous adults. Half-caste children were particularly vulnerable to removal, as it was thought that they could be more easily assimilated into the white community because of their lighter skin color. Children taken from their parents as a part of the stolen generation were taught to reject their indigenous heritage and forced to adopt white culture. Their names were often changed, and they were forbidden to speak their traditional languages. Some children were adopted by white families, and many were placed in institutions where abuse and neglect were common. In 1901, the Constitution stated that Aboriginal people will not be counted in the census and that the Commonwealth has the power to make laws relating to any race of people in Australia except for Aborigines. Because of such discriminatory to the Aboriginal people, on 26th of January 1938, protest was made appealing to make full citizen status and equality within the community. This day was marked as the day of mourning. In 1965, Indigenous student Charlie Perkins leads a group of fellow senior university student activists in the NSW Freedom Rights and exposes the epidemic of discrimination against and mistreatment of Indigenous Australians. On the 23rd of August 1966, Vicente Lingiari led 200 courageous indigenous stockmen and their families to walk off Webb Hill Castle Station in the Northern Territory, protesting against the unequal work and pay conditions. As a response of all these long struggles and fighting for rights, in 1967 a national referendum was held to amend the constitution. Aborigines are included in the census for the first time. The Commonwealth government passes the Racial Discrimination Act 1975. In 2008, the federal government under the Prime Minister Kevin Rudd publicly apologized to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of Australia for the forced removals of the children throughout the history.
For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, their descendants and for their families left behind, we say sorry. To the mothers and the fathers, the brothers and the sisters, for the breaking up of families and communities, we say sorry. And for the indignity and degradation thus inflicted on a proud people and a proud culture, we say sorry.
One of the victims of stolen generation is Roger Garrett. Roger Garrett, one of the Aboriginal children who grew up in Kinsella Boys' Home. Roger was placed in Kinsella Boys' Home. They belted Roger in his back and said, "You are not Richard anymore. You can't speak your language. You are not black, you are not Aboriginal anymore, you are white, you are number 28. And still 50 years on today, Roger remembers every moment and says vividly, he said, when I walked through the gate, I lost my identity, I lost my culture, and then even stole my name away. Social work has been criticized for being dominated by white, Western, and middle class discourses. A central aim of social work is to influence social change and readdress inequalities, which includes reflecting on and challenging white centric social work practices. There is no doubt to say that social work were also the part of a stolen generation process. No white-minded government or social workers can protect and guarantee the future of the Aboriginal children. It's only the Aboriginal people themselves can do. The social work practice should be decolonized and begins with people's lived experience. It means putting people's needs, uniqueness, and knowledge first and seeing all the activities through their lived experience. Building direct social work practice from relationships with Aboriginal people rather than from formula or templates.